well. So my name's Michelle Jorgenson. I'm the I don't even know what my real title is, honestly. Stake Emergency Preparedness Specialist, something of that sort. So I am in charge of figuring out for the stake what our plan will be in the case of an emergency. That's just a small little job and small little responsibility, right? Because have there been any disasters, any emergencies in our world as of late? Hardly any, right? So as I was thinking about how to start this meeting, I was actually thinking a little bit about my last weekend. So where is she? Annie Rollins and I were at a class all last weekend, all day Saturday. We were at a CERT training class. And I was at the class doing training, and while I was at the class, my husband actually was going to get me dinner and watched an accident happen right in front of him, a pretty serious accident. And as he went to the car that had gotten hit, he opened the door, the man was inside. He said he was in a state of shock. He was shaking, he was really shaken up. And he said the thought came into his mind, okay, Michelle's off at this meeting learning about what will happen on a large-scale disaster, and I really saw a small-scale disaster right in front of my very eyes. He said, and I saw the psychological impact of that disaster on this man. He said, I can't imagine what will happen in a long-term or a large disaster psychologically to people. You know, how shaken up people will be and how much shock and those kinds of things will happen. And as I started thinking about it, I thought about this story. And when you watch the news and you see people in Houston right now, in Florida right now, you see kind of a common theme, and maybe they just always find these people to show on the news, I don't know, but they always show the people saying, I don't know what I'm going to do now, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. And as I thought about that, I thought, you know, the answer for that kind of despair and shock and hopelessness in a kind of an emergency is knowledge, right? Knowledge and preparedness. Being prepared ahead of time. And we scheduled this meeting a couple of months ago, long before hurricanes happened or flooding happened or anything, because we are hoping to be prepared for anything. And we've now scheduled it before anything happens here. And hopefully there'll be nothing that happens here anytime soon. But I'm so glad you're all here, because I think us being prepared on a stake level is the number one thing we can do to help ourselves after an emergency, physically, of course, but also psychologically, spiritually, all of those things as well. And I'm excited for those who are here to help us learn today. And we have some great teachers that are going to be here with us. And I'm excited that we can come together as a stake on this. And we're going to be continuing to learn and continuing to add things to this plan as we learn. But this is a great starting point. I received an email just before I came from President Court, who said that he got an email, and he's actually sent me a copy of the email from the area presidency, saying that this was just sent August 30th, so less than 2 weeks ago, asking all stakes to revitalize, revisit, update all of their emergency planning, because emergencies and disasters are high on their radar right now. So to me, if we get an email from the area presidency saying, wake up, make sure you're on task with this, it means that we should be doing it. So I'm so glad we already had the meeting planned. I'm so glad you're all here. So thank you for being here. We're going to move forward. We've got a couple people that are on our ward emergency preparedness level that are going to be talking to us about a few things. And then we actually have Jeff Swenson from the 8th Ward, right? He's actually works with the Lehigh Fire Department, and he's going to be doing a lot of our training tonight, and we're really excited to be able to have him. Are you next, Michelle? Okay, we're going to have Michelle Swim from 2nd Ward, right?
Hi. I was just going to share a little bit about why it's important to have a block captain. And this is something that I am just learning. When we moved in about 10 years ago, our block system was set up in the 2nd Ward and functioning well, because our block captain showed up at our door and she had our packet of information on how to get prepared for disasters and a few other things that we would need to do in a disaster. I knew who she was, where we were supposed to meet. And I felt like I was encouraged by that to get prepared and to stay prepared. And then things kind of went by the wayside a little bit, and we didn't update things. And now we're back on that and getting back on the block system. And so as I was calling block captains this time, I looked a little closer at the plan that the PG City has and realized it's not just the encouragement and knowing exactly where you're supposed to be and being together as a block, and really trying to help support each other. But it's more than that. In some of your packets, I know in our packets, I put the Community Emergency Response Plan, or Community Emergency Organizational Plan from Pleasant Grove right in there. And they say under the purpose and scope that the plan is to help establish channels of communication for requesting and providing resources. Well, how are we going to know what we need in a disaster if we don't have eyes and ears in each individual block examining what the damages are, assessing those, and who needs help and what kind of help specifically? And they can even find a lot of that information before a disaster happens. If you know someone needs oxygen 24/7 or something like that, medication, if you can already assess those needs in advance, you already know there's someone that's going to need help, or you know maybe their level of preparedness. So that's one reason we need block captains, and one reason why you've been asked to help in this way. The other is down at the bottom of that, in this section, it says that despite the city's efforts to get prepared, there is still a likelihood that a major disaster would overwhelm the city's and the neighboring communities' professional emergency responders for up to several days. So we may be in desperate need, but they're overwhelmed and can't. So their plan is to help us get prepared. Thus, we're here tonight, and get organized and trained so that we can effectively assess damages and respond to our own needs. Or if we have the ability to help and there's a greater need somewhere else, we can be directed. And it's just about making sure that we are functioning. You'll also see this in their plan, and I'm sorry, this is a little bit small. You are right here. Block captains are right at the top. You are the ones getting that information, funneling it down from there to a neighborhood coordinator, which would be over you, and then to Michelle Jorgenson, the state, Pleasant Grove City, Utah County, state of Utah, and to whoever else. And I'm assuming that that's probably where they get the information for loved ones out of town, out of state, who are trying to find out how we are if communication lines are broken down. So just understand that you are key. You're the ones gathering that information now and during a disaster so that we can get what we need. So thank you for serving.
So as block captains, you'll be given a packet that will look something like this that you'll take to your families. And I encourage you to do this individually, to take a few minutes to go through, teach them how to use the flagging kit. So if they need help, they can post these flags where they're visible. Also, it's a good idea to go to each family and again find out what their needs are, what their level of preparedness is. Make sure you have contact information, so cell phone, home phone, email. They may not be functioning during a disaster, but it's good to have those. And then get that information back. So if you go through your list and you say, oh, this family's moved, this family has this need, this many people, this family has another family that's living in their basement, make sure that all that information gets back to your ward emergency coordinator, emergency specialist as well. And then also in my ward, so these are the emergency preparedness that you might have each family fill out. It gives them names, family members, equipment that they might have. Does somebody have a generator that could be used to run somebody's oxygen pump? Okay. Do they have a backhoe that could help dig somebody's sewer line out? Those kinds of things. So keep track of that. And then also in here, I put a form that might help you if you give this to your families. It's just a basic questionnaire for the families. Who's in the home, the physical condition of those family members, and do you have clean water? Do you have food supply? Is your home structurally sound? These are the kinds of things that you're going to want to know during that disaster about each family. And then, of course, we'll talk about how to get that information back down that channel, okay? So each of these will go to a family. Make sure you take them to them so that you know who they are, you know what their needs are, and can respond quickly to them in the event of a disaster.
Hi, my name is Jeff Swenson. So I'm in the 8th Ward. I'm the Emergency Preparedness Specialist from our ward. I'm also a firefighter for Lehigh, if you couldn't tell. Just came from a CPR training class, so I didn't get a chance to change before taking the kids to school, or to Grandma's house to be watched. But anyway, I'm grateful to be here. I've been a firefighter for 9 years now with Lehigh. I worked as a hazmat technician over at Iron Flash for the last 8 years. I've been part-time with Lehigh, full-time with Iron Flash. Just left Iron Flash, finished up my paramedic, and I just got an offer yesterday from Lehigh for full-time. So I'm excited about that. But this is an important topic that we're talking about today. You guys have a very, very important responsibility as block captains. Block captains, like we talked about, are at the top of our chain. They're going to help us the most to get the proper help to those in need. So we've done a lot of trials. In fact, Orem today at 6 o'clock just did their emergency preparedness. Anyone here know anyone in Orem? Did they talk about it? Any chance? Nope. Okay. So they just did their emergency preparedness drill today. They honked their horns for 30 seconds. Block captains came out, reported to their captains, reported to the incident command, who reported to the city. And it's like, we're going to talk about how that process goes and how to make it smooth. I've got some packets here we're going to talk about, and I'm going to give each and every one of you. I don't have enough made up, but I've got enough. You can take some extra papers and make your own up. But to start off with, let's just look at what's happening in the world right now. We've already seen the hurricanes, right? So let's talk about the one in Texas. How long did it take for people to get rescued in Texas? Anyone know? Raise your hands. Are they still rescuing people?
I know someone that spent the night on the roof, and it
Okay.
took them over 24 hours.
Over 24 hours to get rescued? Okay. And then some people days, right? I don't know if you guys have heard, but there were people on the roof shooting at first responders, telling them to come rescue them or they were going to shoot them. I don't know if you heard that. Firefighters hear that. So scary, okay? But people are desperate. They're panicky. They need help right away. But what's the difference between the emergency are we going to have a hurricane in Utah? No. What are we looking at happen? Earthquake, right? Okay, what's the difference between a hurricane and an earthquake?
No warning.
No warning. It could happen anytime, day, night, right? So I don't know if you saw, but when Texas's hurricane was coming, they had trucks from FEMA lined up on the road out of town ready to come in and help. We're not going to have that when we have an earthquake here. So if you stop and think about it, let me get some statistics here pulled up. Help me out. But so talking a little bit about earthquakes, and the reason I think this is so important for us here in Utah is just some of the earthquakes we've had in the past since 2001. So January 2001, we had an earthquake in India, 7.6, 2,000 people dead. Okay, January 26, 2004, we had an earthquake in Samaria, 227,898 people died. In May 12th of 2008, in China, they had a 7.9 earthquake. We had a total of 87,587 people die. And January 12th, 2010, 7-point magnitude earthquake in Haiti killed 220,000. So lots of people. So we look here in Utah and we think about that. What's the likelihood of a lot of casualties here in Utah with the big earthquake? High, right? We don't have FEMA lining up trucks outside waiting for us to have that earthquake. So in order to get the help and resources to those in need in a timely manner, it comes down to us. It comes down to you guys as block captains. And we're going to give you the tools today that you can be effective block captains, get the information to the cities, to the stakes, to be able to get the right help to those in need. So, let's see, to start off with, I wanted to first go over a few objectives. So we're going to talk about, we're going to define your role as block captains, which I think has been done pretty well here today. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the cities, Lehigh's, Pleasant Grove. They're all pretty similar. They're EOPs, their Emergency Operation Plan. And then we're going to do some training on block captains. So with education on the city, if we have an earthquake here in Pleasant Grove, let's say just in your ward you have 14 people that need to go to the hospital, a couple dead. How long is it going to take for the city to respond to your block? Any idea? It could be days, yeah. There's no way they're going to respond. The city of Pleasant Grove will be able to get, 1, 2, they have 3 ambulances backed up. They can get to 3 or 4 locations at once, but they're not going to be able to get to 14 here, or 60 or 80 or 100, which is what we're probably going to be looking at in Pleasant Grove. So the way that works with our department is if we have a natural disaster, a major earthquake, I check on my family first. I take care of my responsibilities as a block captain or as the emergency ward prep for my ward, and then I head down to the station. When I go to the station, I relieve whoever needs to go home. All those guys at the station right now, they're worried about their families. Are they going to be productive when they worry about their families? No. So it's my job to take care of my family, my ward, and then head over to the station and relieve some of my guys. So the emergency plan that the city has isn't bad. They've got a emergency operations center that they're going to hold over there in the police department. It might change when the new building comes. But the way we're going to be trained and the way we're going to make this work is we're going to, I got a little diagram here, kind of how it works. This is going to be hard to see. I'm sorry, I didn't bring a projector. First of all, cute little diagram here. We've got the big emergency, right? So there's the firefighters. They're a little overwhelmed. They're going to ask for help. So they're calling and they activate the emergency command center for Pleasant Grove, emergency operations center. Pleasant Grove calls and they set up all their emergency operation guys, take all the information from all the states and cities, the cities that call in. Then we got right here the block captains. This information is going to go directly from you to the the emergency prep leader to the stake. And the stake's going to relay this information to the city, and the city's going to be able to provide the help that they need to your locations. So the city's set up with help. We have first responders, we have volunteers, and we have CERT. How many of you guys have heard of CERT? Oh, that's awesome. How many of you guys are CERT certified? Oh, that's not awesome. So my goal is I would love to see you guys get into the program and take CERT. Most wards will pay for you to go into it. It's like 20 or 30 bucks. You get the backpack, the helmet. They train you on all the technical rescue, all the basic first aid, CPR, AD, all the medical side of it as well. So today I'm not going to focus on that. I don't have time to train you guys on all the medical aspects, all the emergency structural collapses and shoring up structures. So we're going to stick to the real basic part of your job, which is the gathering of the information. So first off is I put together a little packet. This packet comes from information from Orem, from Lehigh, from experiences that these cities have had with the emergency activation, the EOC, in their cities. So when they do these emergency drills and stakes get all their information and they call into the cities and relay all the information, the cities gather that information and then try to make a pretend plan on how to get out to all these locations. The problem they've had in the past is with our gathering of information. So as block captains, when you're walking out gathering the information from the neighbors, there was a lot of information. Houses, how many occupants are in it, what the people, if they're okay, if they're injured, if they need food, water. Well, the city doesn't want to know any of that. We don't want to know if they need water or food or any of that stuff yet. All we want to know is the critical aspect of it. So in this packet that I'm going to be sharing with you today, it's super, super simple. Makes it really, really easy for you guys, okay? There's 2 things. There's a pre-emergency instructions for block captains. That short. Simple, huh? And then there's a post-emergency report for block captains. A little bit longer, but it goes through some more detail. And then there's 2 forms. 2 forms we're going to talk about is a critical report for block captains and the non-critical report for block captains. This critical report is going to be what's going to the city. This is what us as firefighters, us as the city, us as emergency responders want to know. This is where we can send the help. This is going to stay with the stake, most likely, and this is going to be the non-critical emergencies that can be handled on a stake and ward level. So I'm going to pass one of these out to each and every one of you guys so you can kind of look over it as we go through it. So we'll just gather these up, and if you don't mind taking one and passing one. You might just skip a person because I don't think I have 40 of them right now. There's some on this side. Okay. So as block captains, you guys should all be responsible for how many homes? Okay, yep, up to 10. No more than 10. Please, no more than 10. If you got more than 10, then talk to your emergency prep leader and let's get it changed. Okay, so gathering information. This packet's going to help us do that and help us communicate the information back. So I want to start from the beginning. Let's all go back into our heads. Let's imagine what's going to happen. So you're in your homes. Some of you are at work. Some of you are at school. We have a major earthquake. You're the block captain. You just happen to be home today. What are you going to do? What's the first thing you should do as block captains? Yes, please. You're not going to be good to anyone because I know if I'm worried about my family, it's hard for me to focus on something else. Once I know my family's safe and secure, I can move on and help others. So focus on your family first. Make sure that your house is secure, your family's okay, and that you can step out and do your block captain role. Once your family's okay, the next step I want you to do is what we're going to do is an initial check, or initial walkthrough is what I like to call it. So step out of your house. Most of you guys having only 10 houses, 5 houses to go to. You can see most of your houses just from looking at it, right? So we're going to step out of our house and we're going to walk down the street and we're going to look at all the homes. The next thing with these packets that you guys are getting is I'd like you to make copies of them. Oh, sorry, this is before. I'm going back. But make copies of these, give them to everybody in your neighborhood. That's why it says the block captains, or the block and the family checklist. So we want them to have this exact same packet. So you're going to walk outside, you're going to do a couple things. When you walk outside, I want you to look, I want you to listen, I want you to smell. Okay, what are we looking for?
Gas.
Okay, smelling for gas, right? What else are we looking for?
Fire.
Okay, fire, damage to homes. Okay, look, listen, and smell. And we're listening for gas, right? So if we see any of those things, put them on our report. So you guys have a report right there. We're going to put that on the emergency report under critical. The next thing, since you've handed this out to everybody in your block, they're all going to fill out their own critical incident report, and they're going to walk out to you. They can still put their flags in the window and their colors, the red, yellow, and green. But they're going to walk out and hand you this information. Once you gather this information, you record it on your sheet. Pretty simple so far? Then once you get the information on your sheet, you're gonna hire 2 runners. Who can we use as runners? That's right, they're pretty fast runners. So scouts, teenagers, maybe some of your sons. I want them to go in pairs of 2. Never send them alone with the report to your command center. Always send them in 2. So in our ward, we're setting up our command center right in the park. We have a big park at the 8th ward. I don't know if you guys, some of you are familiar with our ward boundaries. We're putting a big easy up in the center of the park. Everybody brings that information to the park. The critical information is what we want first. So once you gather the critical information sheet, gathered all the information from your members of your block, that information goes to the block cap, or to your command point, which ours is in the middle of the park, and then that information gets ran to the stake, and the stake runs it to the city, and the city gets their information on where to send help. Still, it's not going to be fast. So that's why I encourage you guys to do the CERT certification, where you get the medical training, the rescue training. Get those things under your belt first so that you can be able to help a little bit more in this kind of an event. All right, so in your guys' packets that you were handed out with the American Fort, we've talked about some of the structures. And in there, I think there are these same photographs. What's wrong with that picture? As you've walked out, You found this picture. Okay. They didn't come out and hand you their report, and there's no sign on the door. What are you going to do? Anyone? Go knock on their door? Okay. All right. Go knock on their door. Should we enter their house? Okay. Should anyone be in this house? Okay. So if they've came out and you see this kind of structural damage, let's get them out of the house and let's keep them out of the house. The potential for collapse is great and more injury. As most of us know, I hope, well, maybe most of us know, but an earthquake has aftershocks. Aftershocks can be almost as violent as the main earthquake. If your house looks like this, there's a high chance that high probability that you could be into it. Here's another one too. Same thing. You guys have this photo, I think, in your same situation. Don't enter that house. Yell, scream, see if anyone's in there. But I would not enter that house without your CERT coordinators or somebody who is certified and trained to be able to shore up that home. Okay, there's another one. You guys have seen that one too. That's a multi-family structure. Looking for some major events here. So I've done my block captain report. I said my block captain's gone into my neighborhood. He's walked around. He's gathered all of our reports of who's injured, who's hurt, and he sees a house on fire. So this is the critical incident report. In all of our block captain packets, your guys don't have them because I don't have the maps to your stake. We have a map. So our maps are going to be shown. Our block captains are going to be able to highlight the map and tell us what's wrong with each one of these homes. In this case, it's a fire. So Blake's home's on fire. So in that incident, that goes on the critical report for the block captains. That gets sent to the command center, which gets sent to the city, which gets sent to the fire department. And they send out the resources. Okay, so what about the injured and sick? You guys are going to be walking around. You walk out to do your inspection. There's probably going to be a lot of people hurt. A lot of people hurt, injured, crying. It's hard. The hardest part about your job is probably going to be wanting to help them. But we cannot have you guys help them until you've gathered the information from the whole block and sent it to us. Because by slowing down, running in, helping somebody, you're not finishing gathering that information. And that information is not getting passed on where more help can arrive. Okay, so take the time to fill out the report. What I suggest is when you're going along and somebody's yelling for help, tell them you're there to gather the information and you're going to pass it along to those that can get help. Unless you guys, how many here are certified or trained in CPR, first aid? First aid, good. CPR, good. Okay, what about, so in the CERT guys, I'm sure. CERT people have been trained in shoring and rescue, technical rescues. But you're going to want to help those people, but your main goal, your main job is to get that information first. So the second thing, on your second assessment, after you've gathered that information, it's been sent off, we have the second form to fill out in there. Everybody see that one? Let me grab it. So the non-critical form. Non-critical form is a little different than the critical form. Critical form, we had the fire, gas, water leaks, injured people, serious injured, death, and other. Non-critical report is our non-critically injured. So if Johnny's got a broken toe or a broken finger, we don't want to see that on the critical injury. We can put that one on the non-critical side. You've got unconscious, not breathing, anyone that's seriously bleeding, seriously mentally altered, those are all critical. So non-critical sprains, small lacerations, cuts, broken fingers, hands, arms. Those are non-critical at this time, okay? Those are things that we're hoping as a ward and as a stake we can take care of and get them the help they need, because cities, first responders, and CERT teams are going to be bogged down with a lot of other more critical incidences. So food, water, shelter, medications, utility issues. We're going to get the addresses and list the names of those in our blocks that need this stuff. We're going to get this to the stake and to the ward level. Yes?
So, as all this is being said, I'm led to think, what happens if one of us is injured? Do we do double duty, or can we choose a backup of somebody
Yes.
who's not confident with?
So we've seen in the past where they've done the backups, and the backups are out of town too, or they move, or it's been a long time. That's why my suggestion is this packet I've given you, make copies of, and you give to everybody in your block. You take the time to kind of go through the sheet, explain to them what we're learning here, and everybody's on the same page. So if they come out and the block captain doesn't come out, they know they can take over. They can find 2 runners, and they can do the job too. So you as block captains hold the main responsibility of taking this information to them, gathering the information. Well, let's say, yeah, you're injured and you're not getting the information. It's going to be a long time before anyone comes and helps you if your whole block isn't all on the same page. That's why there's 4 pages to this whole thing. There's a pre-incident, post-incident, and your critical information packet and your non-critical information packet. So just made it as simple as we possibly could.
And that, is that plan outlined in here, or do we have to verbally sign that to everybody as we go through the block, telling people? Do they know that if something happens to me, that where to go?
That's something that you will take to your block and you'll explain, hey, if for some reason I don't come out, I've got my neighbor over here, the Smiths, and they're going to come out and do it. But if for some reason neither of us come out, you guys are all have the same packet as we do. You're all trained. You can, well, we're training it, but you're all trained. You can gather this information, get some runners to take it to your ward's emergency command center. Okay. All right. Does that answer your question? All right. But yeah, that's very good. Thank you for bringing that up because super, super important. I have no problems with you guys doing the backups, but we've just found that this works a lot better to have everybody on the same page and everybody being able to step into that role if they can. The CERT training that you guys are going to, hopefully you guys sign up for and get, is going to help you with that mental block and the mental challenge of dealing with mass casualties and emergency response. Are you ever going to be prepared? Is it ever going to be easy? No. In my career, I've been on lots of incidences, lots of deaths, but never in a huge mass scale as something that an earthquake or this would provide. The only time I think we're going to use this is when we have that big mass event, which is long overdue. So we need to be prepared. We need to be ready for it. So critical information report. So take this packet. For those of you that don't have a packet, I've got a couple more of these extra flyers you'll be able to come up and get. And then I have the same information in the packet and these stacks you can gather up and put in. So we touched on a few of these incidences. You guys have any questions or concerns about this program or about how I presented this section? Okay. Yes.
Through the city or through the state?
So this is the information that I've gathered that I've taken to my ward. This is how I do our block captains. How you guys do your block captains can be up to you. If you don't want to use this packet, you don't have to. But what we found is when all the information gets gathered up and sent to the stake, some of the old packets, I don't have one on me, had a lot of non-critical and critical information. And for the stake to go through it and try to figure out who really needs the help and who doesn't, who just needs water, who just needs shelters, who needs blankets, and who needs emergency EMS, and who needs critical care, was taking a long time. So that's why we tried to simplify it and just make it critical and non-critical. So, I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
Yeah, so where the runners are going to the state?
So your runners should be going to, your wards should have set up a command center for each ward. So with your ward mission preparedness specialist, set up a place, a designated spot, like ours is in our park, the most central location for all of our neighborhood, where your runners can take that information to. That information is gathered there and taken to the stake. So then the stake will take it to the municipalities in the city. And then the city will be calling for help once it's declared a national emergency and we get FEMA support and help.
And each of the wards has an emergency preparedness leader, and so there may not be an emergency operations center set up for your ward or a command center for your ward, but you do have a leader. So if nothing else, it's their home.
Yes. So hopefully get with your leaders. I suggest you get a meeting point for it. I think that just works the best. Also, as block captains, get a meeting point for your block. So you have your block set up. For instance, here's my block. We have a meeting point just right here in the center where the block captain meets. And then that information is ran to our park right in the center. So all of our blocks gather their information. It all gets directed right here in the center. That information gets gathered here and taken to the stake once we've gathered everybody's emergency critical report. The non-critical report the city's not going to want, but the state's going to want. Hopefully you guys get your wards prepared on a ward level to take care of most of those needs, and then the state can come in and help with the rest. But it's going to be up to us to help ourselves and to help our neighbors for quite some time before we get that need.
Just to let everybody know, our state, we have had ham operators in our state. We have been practicing for 20 years plus. And we have a ham radio set up in the clerk's office of the state treasurer. So I'm a ham operator, and I'm in the emergency preparedness for our ward. And so when the runners will bring the information to me, I'll be able to communicate that to the state from the radio. I won't have to have any runners. And then the state, they have it set up where they can communicate to the Bishop's Storehouse in Linden. And Linden can transfer that information to church headquarters up in Salt Lake.
Yeah, thank you for that. I forgot to go through how that information actually gets brought up. Yes, thank you. The other thing I know some wards did was a radio. They were trying to do a two-way walkie-talkies with codes. I had one, just the cheap ones you get to go 30 miles. Those are great, but we also found that in some of the cities in Orem and Lehigh, when the block captains were trying to use that and communicate their information to their ward captains, there was just too much radio traffic, and they couldn't quite pinpoint who was talking and who was having the emergency and which person needed the medical help. So that's why the good old-fashioned teenagers or scouts running this little piece of paper to your ward leaders, to your stake leaders, is the simplest and easiest method we found to get the information. And then yes, through the ham radio, once you gather all the houses, how many supplies they need, how much water, how many shelters, how many beds, then that information will get passed on through our ham operators. Yes?
Is this whole idea and this whole procedure ever used would it ever be used for something else besides a major earthquake that we're expecting? So like something, I
Yeah.
don't know what else might happen, power outages or snowstorms?
Epidemics, outbreaks, snowstorms, major power outages. Yeah, all this can be applied to any of those situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know how we know.
When to use it?
Yeah.
You'll know.
Okay.
So any big, major, catastrophic events, definitely.
Well, it would seem if you have a power outage in your neighborhood as a block captain, you'd want to go check on your families.
Yep,
Are you okay? Do you have
definitely.
ways to keep warm? Do you have whatever?
Yep, definitely.
Just on the heels of that, particularly in the summer months, if there's a power outage, we want to check on our seniors. People that are home, anyone that has a medical condition that's homebound, your block captain should be checking on them. Because without air conditioning in the hot summer months, the home can be kind of
Yep, thank you. Also in October, I am going to be holding a CPR and first responder class, completely free. It doesn't give you the certification. If you need the certification, you can talk to me and we can, it's an hour longer, and it's just like $12 for the certification. But I'll get those dates to Michelle. She can pass them on to you guys, and you're more than welcome to come to that. So I'm doing that for my ward and some of the other guys in my brother's ward as well. So, okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Anything else we can?
I just have and this is mainly to enlighten me. On these reports, where it says address, it says that there's not a need to not add names. And I was thinking just before I read that, oh, that'd be nice to just put everyone's name down ahead of time so that you're not filling that stuff out when everything's hectic. Is there a reason that you don't want us doing that?
Yeah, there is, because especially on the critical report, if you've got everybody's name here but no information, we've got to check on those people. As the emergency preparedness specialist, when I get this report, if I've got a name here and I don't know what's going on, I have to go check on that person or send somebody to go check. Why is their name on here? On this critical report, we only want those that need the help. Only the addresses, only the names of those that need the help. Okay? Don't bog it down with a whole bunch of information. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible because it's going to be hectic and it's going to be a lot of information coming in at once.
Okay, so how do you account for the people that you can't account for? That
Awesome.
you haven't seen, that you have no idea if they're...
Okay, and I didn't put that in your report. I apologize. We do have a unaccounted persons form to fill out as well. You guys can come take one of these. My printer is done. I couldn't print out any more of these. It's out of, I don't know, I just stopped printing black. It's gonna be good. Yeah. So anyway, take one of these, split them up, make some copies. I don't know if we have access to make copies here or not, but we'll make some copies of these. But that's a great thing. This is the unaccounted person summary. This gets turned in afterwards, and then we follow up on it. All we're concerned about for the first few hours, several hours, is our critical report. This is what we're concerned about, getting help to those that really need it. After that goes to non-critical. Let's get shelters set up. Let's get tents set up. Let's get people whose houses are structurally sound. Let's get some of the families that are in homes that aren't moved in. Let's take care of our wards and each other. But this is the unaccounted person summary, and it could be for anything, whether they're just at work, we haven't made contact. Anyone you have not made contact with gets put on this report, and that gets turned in as well. So, great question. Thank you. Anything else? Questions? Okay. All right. Well, again, I tried to make it real simple, but these reports made it simple in our ward and how we're running the program. This is what the cities have found to be the easiest, is not being bogged down with all that other information, but just the critical information. So I hope it helps our stake too, with information, getting just the critical stuff and then gathering the non-critical information. But thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. Again, in October, there's 2 dates in October, beginning and end of October. I'm going to be teaching first aid, CPR, AED, and first responder class. I still suggest you do CERT. You're going to get a lot more training, a lot more rescue training in CERT than you will with me, these classes, but they're an awesome start. Once you've gathered your information, once you've sent it off, you're going to want to help those. You're going to want to help your family. You're going to want to help your neighbors. And just to be able to have that direction, a little bit of basic understanding in the first aid, first responder level, is going to help you feel a little more confident and comfortable in that situation. So we do understand that there's a long freezing point when a big event like this happens, where people are just kind of stunned, don't know what to do. But with the practice and preparation and taking these training courses, you'll be able to get that confidence and be able to handle these kind of situations. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Is your training going to be on a weeknight or?
One's on a weekday and one's on a weekend. So and I'll get those dates, Michelle. I'm just waiting to hear back from another family.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let me give just a little bit of clarity about what we're doing on a stake level as well. So I've been in this calling for, it's going on a year now, and during that year we've made significant strides on a stake level. We didn't really have much on a stake level up to that point. And I want you to know that the stake presidency is very much interested in this. President Court told me that since the day he was called, he's felt the weight of this on his shoulders. And he feels like this is something that we absolutely need to do as a stake, and that the preparation will help us so that we can be calm and collected, and more than anything, we can help each other. Because really, anytime you're in a difficult situation, don't you just want to help everybody? You just want to help. And so if you have the ability and the skills and the tools to do that, it's so much better for everybody, for those who need the help, obviously, and for those that are able to do the helping as well. So on a stake level, we have a functioning emergency preparedness committee that we've been using for nearly a year now. We have ward leaders that are fabulous. So each of you should have a ward leader that has been trained, that is functioning as well, that's keeping everything up to date. That's part of what this meeting is tonight. On a stake level, we do have plans to prepare an emergency operations center, or an EOC is what it's called. That will be here at the stake center. So when we talk about, ward leaders, you block captains will be transferring information to the ward leader and the bishop at that level as well. Then that information will come to the stake center, which will be our emergency operations center. And here we're going to be able to set up medical care. We have plans for all kinds of things from mass feeding to mass shelter. All of those things we have in the planning stage. Obviously, you don't know how to do anything until you actually have to do it, but we have plans for all of those things. And so I want you to know that we have those things in place now, and we all feel a lot better about that now that we do. Do we have everything figured out? No. And will we have everything figured out unless we have to use it? No. But that's okay. We have at least the ideas and things in mind, and the state presidency is very much in support of all of this. If you did not last year, it came out last December, we had a stake survey that came out. Did any of you see that stake survey that came through the email? Okay, hopefully you all filled it out. We'll probably send it again in December. What that is it's gathering a massive data in regards to all the people that are in our wards in our stake. And it's been so helpful to see that, because now we see where the need lies. And the interesting part was, and we talked about this, that the information coming from the survey is probably going to be skewed slightly. Because if you have not done any kind of emergency preparedness, do you think you're going to probably be likely to fill out the survey? Probably not, right? So we knew that probably the more prepared portion of the stake is probably filling out the survey. So we figured that the results were skewed slightly. But we saw some interesting statistics. As far as food goes, our stake is doing pretty well. As far as as far as water goes, we're about 50% or so. As far as family plans and 72-hour kits, those kinds of things, we're down in more about the 30% range. So what that tells me is that we're probably okay with food and water, at least, if we're on a short-term basis. But the plan, what do we do when this happens, we're really not okay with. That's what we all need to help each other with. So I love this idea Jeff talked about you each going to your families and having this conversation with them. And you helping us do the training, because we simply can't go to every home, but you can. You can go to every home and you can share with them what you've learned, and okay, this is what's going to happen. And what I encourage you all to do on a personal basis as well as on a block basis is, okay, say we have an earthquake and it's 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. Where's mom? Where's dad? Where's kids? Where's anyone else that lives in the home? And think through those scenarios. Where are you? And what are we going to do about that? Now, this, what is it called? Unaccounted for person summary could be very large, right? Depending on the time. If it's 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, everybody's going to be home. If it's 3 p.m. on a weekday, maybe not even half the people are going to be home. So it really depends on timing, those kinds of things. So having a plan in place for what will happen in case of emergency. At the CERT course that we just went to this last weekend, they told us that they'd called around all the different municipalities, and they were told that for Pleasant Grove City, it would be typically an average of 12 days that we would see city services helping us. 12 days. A lot can happen in 12 days. So a lot needs to happen in 12 days. We aren't going to have help from the city. They just simply don't have the resources. The other thing we learned is that American Fork Hospital has the capacity for 21 people in an emergency. 21. That's how many they will take at one time. They then triage the 21 people, and then they take people one at a time into that emergency room, or into that emergency system. So are there going to be more than 21 people that have an emergency, medical emergency, during any kind of a disaster? Obviously so. So even if we're saying, report this to city level, they're not going to be able to care for us, even if we report it. So we will report, obviously, but we really need to care for ourselves. We need to care for each other. So that's the nice thing about the survey as well, is we're finding out who's doctors, who are nurses, who are paramedics, who are trained in these kinds of things, so that we can build our own community support system right here in our stake. So I'm so thankful that you're here. I'm so thankful that you've taken this role and owned it, and hopefully now you'll be empowered to be able to feel better about what this is. And if you don't feel better, if you just have a lot more questions, that now you know who to ask. How do I help in this role, and what do I do from here? And hopefully we're never going to have to use it, right? Hopefully we're never going to have to try out and see if what we've done is effective or not. Hopefully we're never going to have to. Odds are that we will. Odds are that we're probably going to have to do this at some point in time. So I'm glad that we're training and we're learning. So thank you so much for being here. We said we'd be less than an hour, and we did it. So thank you for doing that. Brother Jones, would you mind giving us a closing prayer? That's what you get for sitting on front row. Thank you.